Hey guys, what's up? We are back for another episode of Onside Chicks. I am Jordan Gerard Coupe, and I am joined with Kaylee. There's actually a lot going on right now, but I know we are both not totally thrilled about it. We're going to get into all of it. Let's start with the biggest news going on right now. The trade is officially a done deal. Julio Jones to the Tennessee Titans. Take it away. I know this one stings for you a little bit.
I'm hurt. I'm not hurt. Let me not say I'm hurt because my first reaction to this news. I hate to say I told you guys so. But it makes sense. Like we said, there's not a lot of teams out there that could afford his contract. But my first thought wasn't like, oh, they're such a dangerous team now. That didn't cross my mind.
We'll have a lot of holes, especially on defense,
So many holes. And so my first thought was all of this hoopla getting Julio Jones just to steal someone's playoff spot away who's more deserving and then lose in the first round, like always. Or the second round, whatever. We won't play semantics, but to pull up a disappointing playoff appearance after you've acted like you're a legitimate contender all season, all of this for Julio Jones. I mean, and that's just what I'm thinking is I'm like, Julio Jones got on the phone and said, I want to go somewhere that's going to win. I want a quarterback that's going to win. I want all these things. I want to win games. And you went to the Titans. You'll win games in your conference or in your division. That's about it. But
no, I agree. They're the team that, and you have a reason. The Titans to you are like the Cowboys to me. Mm-hmm. You have a reason. Mm-hmm. The Titans, I can't even put my finger on it. They are like the nice guys. There's no like issue guys on that team. They're all great. Everything. I have no reason to not like them. And for those people that you meet and they're great and they're nice, but for some reason they just rub you the wrong way. Yes. That's the Titans for me. And I can't even I can't explain why. It's just like how it is. And I hate to say it because I wish I could like them, but I just don't. So I see the news of this and it does make sense. They lost people on offense. They lost Corey Davis. They lost Jonnu Smith. AJ Brown was fighting for this hard. Like, this makes sense for him to go there. Like you said, they're one of the few teams that can pay him, but it's just not something for me to get super excited about. And you're right. They will win and they'll dominate the regular season, but especially in the AFC, you get into the playoffs, especially with their defense being the way it is, which I think they should have put more of their focus there.
Yeah.
You can't compete with the Chiefs. I don't like the Ravens came out. They got lucky against the Ravens 2 years ago. Last year, the Ravens proved that they can come out and do what they can in the playoffs. I think there are so many other teams. Now you have the Steelers and the Browns that are kind of proving how good they can be. I'm not sold that this is going to be a Super Bowl team. I can't see them getting there.
Yeah, I think you look at where the AFC is now, and this is completely a 180 from where they were maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but the AFC has really taken over. And there are still some of the toughest divisions in the NFC. I think we can all agree to that, but I just think so many teams are on the come up in the AFC. It's going to be really hard to pave a path to the Super Bowl. And you think about everything they're lacking on offense, right? Their offense runs solely through Derrick Henry up until now. I mean, yes, we love AJ Brown. Love him. He's doing great. Love that for you, babe. But Derrick Henry is your bread and butter, right? Like you got Ryan Tannehill. I think it was iffy with Ryan Tannehill coming to Tennessee, but I think the upside for him is that everything runs through Derrick Henry, right? Like everything. So you don't have a ton of pressure as a quarterback. Now you've got a very, very, very expensive receiver that puts a lot of pressure on Ryan Tannehill to make those plays, to get the ball to Julio Jones or to AJ Brown. I know we talked about this on Play the Bay, but you have to kind of decide who are you really going to be targeting, who's going to be a distraction, and where are you going to be putting the ball? But that puts a ton of pressure on Ryan Tannehill that I'm just not sure he can step up to. So now you've got, you're missing a lot of pieces on your offensive line. Of course, you've gotten some rookies, you got some draft pieces, but that's not going to measure up to what you had last year. So you're putting Ryan Tannehill in a compromised position. Now you're putting pressure on him to get the ball out and increase your passing game, which was non-existent pretty much last year. And you still have Derrick Henry, which most of your offense will probably still run through because he's a monster of a human being. So I don't know who this team is right now. Whereas last year I was like, that's the team that runs the ball. That's the team with Derrick Henry, right? And that's how they win games. Now I don't know who they are because I think this kind of complicates. It's almost like they have too much to be that team anymore, but they don't have enough to be a well-balanced offense. I'm very confused as to what their identity is going to be this year.
No, I think that's a very good way of putting it because on paper you're looking and you have not even decent, you have fantastic offensive weapons. You now have Julio at receiver. You have Henry, who is the king himself. AJ Brown is great. So now you have these options. And I guess on paper, you look at that and you're like, wow, they can really work this and maybe they can surprise people and not put all of it on Derrick Henry. And I know they went out, they signed Bud Dupree, they drafted Caleb Farley. Like they did things to help their defense. But overall, you have the pieces, but I just don't think it's going to be enough, especially when you now have to compete with the Chiefs, the Bills, the Steelers, the Ravens. Like there are so many other teams if they can, which I think they will, especially with the expanded playoffs. But if you make the playoff push, I don't think you can make the playoff run. So, and who knows, like this could be something they can work on improving in the next year or two. Maybe it's just going to take some time, but I don't see this as this is a good team, but I don't see this as a Super Bowl team. It seems like there's still a lot lacking. And like you said, their identity is Derrick Henry. That's how they win games. And so now you're kind of throwing a wrench in that. And it's like, maybe they're going to try and do too much and it's going to complicate things and I just don't know if this is going to work in the way that everyone's kind of expecting it to work.
Yeah. And I just think it's an overreaction to the whole situation, which is fair. He's a big name. He's a veteran who's been around the league. He gets it. He's also 32 years old, coming off of an injury. I get it. He's a guy who gets injured, but I just don't see him having this breakout season in Tennessee. I just don't see it happening. I don't think the offense has the infrastructure right now to support him having this like 1,000 yards. He goes off, he scores all these touchdowns. He makes a huge impact on their offense because they're not set up for that. They're set up for Derrick Henry to run the ball and for Ryan Tannehill to cause as little problems as possible, right? That's what they're set up for. So I'm going to be really interested to see how much of an impact he makes if they use him in the way I think we're used to seeing him be used. Because I think there is a way that he wants to play and he hasn't really been able to play that way. But I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm never convinced about the Titans, and that goes beyond my own personal bias. I just think they're a hard team to buy into when you look at the past. They are. It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell because they're in disguise. Like they are disguised as a good team and then they show up in the playoffs and they're exposed.
Yes. And it's crazy too. This is why I was kind of pushing so hard. And I knew the Packers were basically out of the question solely because of money and the lack that they have. But if you threw Julio Jones onto a team like the Packers, I was pushing very hard for the Chargers, where they kind of Miami. I love Miami.
We love Miami here.
Yeah, we can't say enough good things about Miami. Miami's definitely on the come up. Mm-hmm. But if you threw Julio Jones into an offense like that with Rodgers or Herbert, I feel like that honestly would have been best case scenario for him because they also have, and I guess you can make the argument with AJ Brown, but these are stronger quarterbacks that have the arm to where Julio Jones can make those incredible plays, but they don't rely on him. I feel like the Titans are going to have it in their mind where they spent all this money. Now they have to rely on him. And with the age, with the injury, he is fantastic. And I'm not taking anything away from him at all, but you do have to accept that the age and the injury's there. Like we can't just ignore that no matter how great and incredible he is. So for the fact of them wanting to come out and kind of utilize him and they think he's going to be the thing that takes their team to the Super Bowl, makes them Super Bowl contenders, it's ridiculous. It's not going to happen. And that's kind of, I'm not upset that he's there. I think it's a smart team. It's just not necessarily what I wanted. And I don't think that's going to be what we get from them.
Yeah. And it's wild. It is wild to say that him alone with AJ Brown, Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill is going to make the best offense in the league. It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
There's no
I
way.
think it's a big blockbuster trade. We've all been waiting for it to happen. We've been anticipating it. So that's why it seems so magnificent. But at the end of the day, you cannot forget about all the teams that have done this slow build to build their team the right way, to put weapons in place, to build a really well-rounded offense. And those are the teams, especially in the AFC, that are going to come out and shine. And you're just not going to get past. I'm going to sit here. We're standing Miami. I think we always do. But you're not going to get past a Miami. You're not going to get past a Buffalo. You're not going to get past a Baltimore. Like, those are the teams that have done this work. They've put in the work up front. They've really put an effort into making their team dangerous on both sides of the ball, which is where Tennessee is really lacking on defense. And you're just not going to, it's not going to happen. And again, I think it's a great step in the right direction. It just seems bigger. But I will say, love him for not taking number 11 away. Love him for that. I think that was very cute.
Especially because you saw how hard AJ Brown fought. He wanted it so bad. And I believe it was on Twitter or Instagram. I saw it. He posted a screenshot where when he was about to get drafted, he DM'd Julio and was just like, listen, man, like, thank you for doing everything you've done. Like, you've inspired me. And Julio never even answered. He probably never even saw that. And now all of, like, it's so wholesome. And the fact that AJ Brown offered it, he was like, until I like take it. And he was like, nope, I'll take number 2. It's just so sweet. Like, that just made my heart melt.
Yeah. Now, what I will say about that is we talked about the importance of culture and the importance of atmosphere when it comes to these teams and building a legacy or building something that players want to be a part of. Now, I do think that this, I will be fair. I'll say this. I didn't have super high thoughts about Julio Jones as a locker room guy. He was never that guy in my mind. And maybe that's just because I didn't pay enough attention. But I think seeing all of this unfold, the way that he was traded, the way that he approached the number situation, the way that he came into Tennessee, I will say I think this speaks volumes to where their culture is going over the next few years. So all good on that front. I do think that they're going to be a team that becomes a destination. Now, I don't know if that's soon. It's definitely not this year, I don't think. But I do think in the next 3 to 4 years, they're going to get some pieces there. They're going to build something pretty special in that locker room, and maybe players want to be part of it. And this is just the first kind of step in that. I won't say the first. I think they've been doing it kind of behind the scenes, but this is definitely the first public step of we're trying to move in that direction. Like you said, they don't have a lot of problem children, for lack of a better phrase, in the locker room. Like they're balanced in the way that they approach players and making sure that they're all kind of there for the right reasons. So I will give them props on that. But that was heartwarming. I love a heartwarming twist on the story that otherwise makes me cringe.
Yeah, and it's really, I feel like there was also just like, it's like, oh my God, Julio's going to be on a new team. And there was so much like hype anticipation. And then it happened. And I was just kind of like, oh, he's going to Tennessee. Like, great. Like, it was just like all this hype leading up for complete and utter like subpar emotions. Now they got him. All they gave up was a second round in 2022 and a 4th in 2023. And they got him and a 6th in 2023. I think it's kind of absolutely insane that was, I was pissed. I was pissed that a 2nd, a 4th this year, next year, whatever. But to get Julio and to also get another pick for it, that just seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah, and I think that's partially due. I mean, we did talk about the Patriots. We talked about a handful of other teams when talking about landing spots for Julio Jones. But you have to think of like what teams were available at that 15 million mark for salary cap, what teams had the draft capital to pull it off. And there were other teams coming in offering second round picks, right? Yeah. Like there were other teams making very either better offers or right in that same ballpark. And they kind of brushed it off as we don't have any legitimate offers for Julio Jones. Now, that's kind of crazy to me because now you've given up way more than you probably should have. You've dragged it out longer, which has really kind of downgraded what his worth probably is on the market, and then really takes all of your trade power away to begin with. So I'm confused as to why they did delay it and they did turn down offers, because I don't think he has a no trade clause. So I don't think he has any really say over. Right. So he has no say over where he's going. Obviously, he wanted to go somewhere. Maybe they were trying to leave on good terms with him, so maybe they were letting him have some input. But yeah, very strange. Not enough, in my opinion. And
the Titans got him. This was a steal, a complete steal, and it makes me. I feel really bad for the Falcons because, and I don't know if the phone call actually played. Like, because everyone was like, this is such a big deal because it kind of takes away their upper hand. I feel like they definitely still could have had an upper hand. And if a team really wanted Julio Jones this bad, you didn't have to also give up a sixth. Like, it just seemed Julio for a second and a fourth. That makes sense to me. But for them to also lose, like, it just feels weird. Like, I just feel like they got completely screwed over in this.
I feel like they got caught in the mindset of he doesn't want to be here. So we're not going to get out of him what we want to get out of him. So let's just get something, right? And I think that's maybe where their mindset was, which understandable, I guess, if you're going off of.
It also clears up so much cap room for them. His contract literally put them in cap space hell. So that does help.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the thing too. I think if you're looking at it as he doesn't want to be here, what kind of production are we going to get out of a player that doesn't want to be on our team? And then two, you still have to sign rookies. You have to finalize some other contracts that are on the table. You've already restructured Matt Ryan. You've restructured a handful of other deals just to make this year work cap-wise in general. You also have a light at the end of the tunnel coming down for next year's cap, right? Like, it can be up to $209 million, which is a huge increase. Doesn't mean it's going to get all the way up there, but definitely heading in that direction. You're going to be 200 plus, probably, no doubt. So you have some wiggle room. Maybe you're looking at some free agents that are going to come up next year. You're going to look down the pipe. Maybe you have given up this year, and I don't want to say that because they have Kyle Pitts. There's a lot to like about Atlanta roster wise and talent wise, but I think maybe they just understand that this is kind of a lost cause. Like, he doesn't want to be there. They have to pay other guys. It frees up cap space. They're not expecting much this year, probably, given their division as well. They're definitely, they don't have the upper hand in that division by any stretch of the imagination. So maybe they're just kind of like, this year is not where we want to try to spend $15 million. Let's worry about it next year.
Yeah, definitely. So now this all happened. This all went down. We have our answer. It's done deal. We can wait to see what happens this season. But the big question mark right now, which is still every single day, I literally see a new thing every single day. Aaron Rodgers is still missing in action. One day I see a tweet, Aaron Rodgers, there's no chance. He's not going back to Green Bay. Bridges are burned. No chance. Today I see a tweet that's like, Aaron Rodgers has no issues with the GM and he's willing to fix everything. I've talked to him myself. So I am at a loss for this right now. The major thing that we have to kind of focus on right now is he's not expected to attend minicamp. Or not minicamp. Yeah, minicamp. And the Packers could fine him $93,000 if they so choose. They could write this off as an excused absence, and then they don't have to fine him, but they easily could if they wanted to, if he doesn't show up. So now I think I've been living in this blind optimism where I'm like, no, once everything's mandatory, it's going to be fine. Everything's fine. And we're kind of getting to that point, and he still hasn't given any inkling to what he's thinking. So I hate to say it, I am kind of going into panic mode a little bit. Yeah. Just because I feel like it's getting closer and closer, and he's still not saying anything. And he's still singing Taylor Swift and having the time of his life, and it doesn't seem like we're getting or moving in the right direction at all.
I'm going to give a lot of credit to Pro Football Talk because they put out something that said we're continuously led to believe that this situation is fixable, right? Like that's the narrative that's going on, is that the Packers know how to fix this and they just haven't done it, right? And I think that is definitely crafted perfectly by Aaron Rodgers in the sense of he's off living his life. He has all these other opportunities outside of football. He is in Hawaii with his fiance and some other people who are famous, quote unquote. And then you have Jeopardy, you have all of these other things that he has lined up that he can do besides play football for the Green Bay Packers, right? And you're led to believe that this is just a fixable situation, that the Packers just aren't willing to budge. Now, do I believe that he is willing and probably considering stepping away from football, at least for this year? Yeah, I do, because I think he has finally found a life outside of football that is making him more fulfilled than playing with the Packers. But I do think that maybe there is probably, if I had to guess, a lot of outreach on behalf of the Packers that just is not necessarily being considered. And I think the more he holds out and the longer he stays away from the facility and from camp, the better for his image in terms of the fans, in terms of what people think of him. Because I do think that personally, I'm very much blaming the Packers, right? Like and we've sat here and we've talked about it, and I don't know if it's just a brilliant PR play by Aaron Rodgers or if there really is something that they're just not willing to do for him. But I think we can all see the frustration. I want to say at this point he'll return, but I also would love if he just lived out his life outside of football. Like I'm such a big proponent of like players finding something they love outside of the game. And so I'm on his side regardless. I just can't tell if I'm like being led by Aaron Rodgers to be on his side or if I'm just on his side based on free thought.
No, I'm definitely so biased because, and I want to say, like, obviously I want him to be the happiest version of himself. And deep down, I know I do, but I'm very selfish right now. And I don't think I'm ready, especially after this season. I'm not ready to watch a league without Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
It's too soon. He is still too good. And would it absolutely kill me to watch him play on another team? Yes. The only reason I love the Packers is because of him. Like he is that organization. He is that team. He makes them so special. So I would still love and support him, but it would still feel weird because the Packers are like one of those teams, like other than my team, obviously, that I've loved like my whole life because of. So it's a lot of mixed emotions right now. And I want to be a good person and be like, you do whatever makes you happy. But at the end of the day, I'm sitting there, fingers crossed, praying that he ends up in Lambeau and everything is fine. And I still might be living in this pipe dream. I still believe that is what's going to happen. I believe this is an incredible PR stunt on his end. We know he is a master manipulator. Like this is not new information. And this isn't even, he's warranted. This isn't him being a brat or being pissed for no reason. Like this organization has consistently screwed him over for the last handful of years. So for him to get to this point, it makes sense. So I think, like you said, he has the right to drag it out and everyone's on his side. He can do whatever he wants. He completely has the upper hand here. But I'm just sitting back, fingers crossed, hoping that when the season starts, he is the starting quarterback in Green Bay because I don't think my heart is ready to accept anything else right now. And that's nothing against Jordan Love. I bet Jordan Love is a great quarterback, but it's just too soon.
It is. And I think they've done a great job as an organization. I mean, first, I grew up with having Brett Favre as my favorite player of all time. And obviously that's changed as of late. Just can't support everything he's come out and said. But like, grew up with that, and then to see Aaron Rodgers kind of step into that role as well. And I agree with you. I think he's an NFL guy, right? Like he's not, unless you really just hate the Packers, which I there are fan bases out there who are fully you are justified. But for the rest of us, I think we just have grown up and we've really watched him develop and really rooted for him in a very unbiased way. And so I think it's interesting. I don't know. I think Devontae Adams and David Bakhtiari have obviously spoken out in support of him while being very careful not to go against the Packers. So their PR teams are working overtime on that, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't think he cares about fines. I'll say that right now. I think he can he would probably laugh at the fines if you have that much money and you're living your life and you're out in Hawaii and you're singing Taylor Swift, you really don't care. Like, you're going to get almost $100,000 fine in the mail and you're just going to laugh. But
he's going to be like, here, take it, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested. I guess if he doesn't come back, what do you do as the Packers? I mean, it seems like they don't have any other choice to go with Jordan Love. But what do you strategically do at that point?
When I genuinely don't know. Yeah. And I saw an article today that said Jordan Love would be 100% ready to come out and be their starting quarterback if Aaron Rodgers sits out or doesn't come back. However, I think this organization crumbles if Aaron Rodgers is not there. I don't think, and like I said, this is nothing against Jordan Love. I just don't think the team overall is ready to come out and have a first-year quarterback. I don't think they're there. The thing with Aaron Rodgers, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, he is the type of quarterback that makes decent players great. So he takes this team and he knows how to utilize his weapons and utilize everything he has and make it the best that it can be. For Jordan Love to come out and try to do that, I think that's asking way too much. I think there's way too much pressure on him. And I just think it gets to that point where they're not going to know what to do. And Aaron Rodgers has been there for forever. He knows that team like the back of his hand. And Jordan Love, he's out there, he's working with what he has, but I just think it's asking way too much of a young quarterback. So I just can't see anything great coming out of this. And I would never wish, even without Aaron Rodgers, I would never wish anything bad against the Packers. I just can't see them coming out and being above 500 without him.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like everything we've heard from LaFleur about Love has just been very desperate. And that sounds harsh, but it just has felt like they're just not 100% sold on Love, which is really concerning when you have your MVP quarterback holding out of minicamp. But, they've mentioned like he just needs every rep he can get. Obviously, we're going to make sure that we, assist him and make sure he can handle it and like he can learn something from all this. But they just don't sound 100% confident. They might say they are 100% confident, but they don't really sound like it. And they just keep reiterating the fact that he needs every single rep he can handle. He needs to take every rep he can get. He obviously didn't have a preseason last year, so that's a huge factor. But yeah, I'm not pumped to see them without Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if it'll happen, but that's tough. That's tough. That's not a good look.
Also super frustrating for them to be in that point where they're realizing they can't 100% just rely on Jordan Love to take this team and run with it, because they've messed up a lot, but that was the nail in the coffin. Like, that's what really did them in. And so the fact that you made that move and they knew they knew exactly what they were doing. And then this year to come out when they had offensive weapons available and to not go for it. So they know what they're doing, and they know what Aaron Rodgers has been asking for, and they know that they are clearly just going against what he's doing. So for them to make all of these moves and then to be in this point where you still can't function without Aaron Rodgers, I just don't get how they're justifying any of it. Like, I don't get how if I were them, I would be throwing everything on the line. I would be like, and I know it's messed up. Like, I know the organization should at some point put their foot down, but for where they're in, let Aaron Rodgers walk all over you. You've earned it. You've gotten to that point, and even if he does, if he comes out and you let him do whatever he wants, you know at the end of the day, he is going to come out on that field on game day, and he is going to win you games. So if he throws a hissy fit, if he is making things difficult on you, they did that to themselves at this point, and I can't feel sorry for them. And if they want to be a Super Bowl team, they need Rodgers to do that.
He called their bluff on that one, and that's the whole thing, right? Like they went behind his back, they drafted this guy, they tried to put a fire under his butt to perform better or to act like he had something on the line, and he called their bluff, right? He had an MVP season, and then he said, "Peace out, good luck," right? Yeah. And that is exactly what's happening. It's unfortunate, but you asked for it, right? Because you see all these teams, and we've said it a million times, the future of the NFL is to have your players involved in the process, from drafting to front office decisions. You have to have these guys that are making your franchise and putting butts in your seats at your stadiums part of the decision-making process. And when you don't do that, then they're liable to go to Hawaii and sing Taylor Swift with Miles Teller and say F off. Because like that is exactly what's happening. He's saying like, oh, I thought you drafted your quarterback, right? I thought you got your guy. I thought you have exactly everything you want. And now they're freaking out, which is fine, understandable, but we'll watch it as it plays out. We have a comment, Deshaun Watson. Do we want to touch this? That has been a pretty interesting. I don't know if we want to go into that before we jump to Zach Ertz, but let's touch it.
Let's go there.
So Deshaun Watson, okay. Obviously, we know he requested a trade. He had a no trade clause. So there was some confusion about where he would go, if he would go anywhere, can anyone afford him? That was before he had multiple lawsuits, sexual assault lawsuits filed against him. Now that's kind of been in litigation. That's been under, it's been investigated, essentially, is what's happening right now. And then his former teammate, Kareem Jackson, went on a podcast saying that he's good friends with Deshaun Watson, has a great relationship with him, and that Deshaun Watson wants to go to the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver Broncos obviously kind of fumbled the bag in the draft. Obviously, we kind of thought that they would be in play for Aaron Rodgers, the formerly mentioned MVP quarterback who's been in Hawaii.
Oh, that guy.
That guy. And so when that didn't play out on draft day, we kind of got very confused at what the Broncos were trying to do. Not to mention Houston has now canceled their mini camp, right? So Watson's not going to get fined for missing it. He wouldn't have showed up. But what, where do we start with this?
I think this, and I'm going to call it a situation because
it's a situation. It's a situation.
It took a turn. I really thought our biggest concern regarding Deshaun Watson was going to be if the Texans were to let him go and do right by him. And then this really took a hard left, and there was a lot of other things that we kind of had to process. If we remove all of that, I think the Broncos should do everything they can to get him. However, with all of his other baggage still on the table, there's a major investigation that I don't think we're going to see the end of for a very long time. It went from a handful of women to now, I believe the last time I saw 20 to 23 different people have come out against him. So I think at this point, I would be genuinely shocked, not even just in Houston. I would be shocked if Deshaun Watson is playing anywhere next season. I really think it's going to be a year of letting the investigation play out and doing everything that we have to do to kind of see both sides, because we do have to remain, we don't know. This is a lot of he said, she said right now, and we have to look at all of the evidence on paper before we can kind of make our minds up about anything. So I really think it would be unfair for Deshaun Watson to come out and play right now. And I hate to say that because it's just such a hard situation to kind of wrap my head around, because this is someone that I respect. And then there's just a lot that we kind of have to read into. So I think the smart thing for any team and for himself is to take the year and deal with everything else going on because it's so important. And that's not something we can just kind of brush under the rug and let happen. So once that is handled, I think the Broncos would be great. I think there are a lot of teams that could easily use him. I just think it's such a touchy situation right now. It wouldn't be smart for anyone to get involved.
Yeah, we just have no idea what's going on. And there have been no updates on this since early May, right?
Yeah,
so
everything came out, we knew, and then it stopped. And I think it stopped because there were no new cases and we kind of know all that we can know right now. And they are investigating and digging into everything, but there's still a lot that we need to learn before I think we can make any decisions on where he can end up.
Yeah. And I mean, look, the Broncos would be a great destination. Like I said, they really missed out on Justin Fields. They missed out on the opportunity, obviously, to get Aaron Rodgers in a trade. We don't know what went on behind the scenes, but there was definitely talks of that happening on draft day.
I think they were convinced they were getting him.
I think 100%. Yeah.
And something, I don't know how they got there or what went wrong, but I really think they had it in their mind that they were getting Aaron Rodgers, and that's why they made the decision that they made. And now they kind of shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. And I think Deshaun Watson, assuming all of this gets cleared and he's ready to go, makes a ton of sense, right? Like, he's a guy that's upset with his current location. He doesn't want to play for the Texans. They brought in, Tyrod Taylor. Okay. So here we are. I don't know what to say else about that, but they brought in someone. I think they are prepared mentally to not have Deshaun Watson this season. I think they've kind of prepared for that in their minds a little bit and in the way that they're scheming. And I do think it's a bit of a mistake to cancel their minicamp. I think
so too.
Yeah. I don't know that. Again, Deshaun Watson could probably afford the fines, and maybe they just don't have a clear idea of where they want to go this season. But I think it sends a really bad message to the fans, to the players. I think there's been so much skepticism around Houston and what they've been doing and the decisions they've been making. And now you bring in new people, you bring in new staff, you bring in new players. You should start that off on the right foot. And that starts at minicamp, right? And it may not seem like a big deal. It's 3 or 4 days, but it is a big deal. It's a big deal in setting the tone of your season, the tone of your team. And when you don't have that and you cancel it altogether, that doesn't send the greatest message. So I'm a little concerned.
I am too. And it kind of says that they don't know how to handle it. I think they easily, I feel like like you said, it kind of has, the talk about it has died down a lot. And I really think they didn't want to draw any more attention to themselves. But at the same time, if they came out and said, listen, we understand everything that's going on, but we are still an organization that wants to do right by our team, by our fans. So we are going to, even if Deshaun Watson doesn't show, fine him. Don't just let it. That's its own situation as is, but you still have a team to run and you still have a fan base that is going to want to support you no matter what. So I think for them, it's toxic. And they easily could have come out and said, we're not disregarding the other things that we have to deal with right now. But at the same time, we are going to do everything we can to move our team forward. And I think everybody would have respected that and understood that. Now I just think that makes them look a lot worse for canceling it altogether.
Yeah. And I mean, you're seeing two sides of the same coin, right? You're seeing it in Houston, you're seeing it in Green Bay. Obviously, the difference is Aaron Rodgers is not dealing with what Deshaun Watson is dealing with off the field. So that's a consideration as well. But you're seeing a team that's saying, you know what? He's not here, but we're working with what we have and we're going forward with what we have. We've made these decisions in the past to set us up for this moment, and we will continue on. Now, I don't buy their comfort at all, but I just think the Texans were mismanaged for so long. You saw Bill O'Brien basically run this franchise into the ground, and then they turn around. And when you're trying to start off on a rebuild on the right foot, and you do, to be fair, they've made good moves in the free agency. They've made good moves in the offseason.
They have.
like surprisingly good ones. And again, just like the Titans, I don't really want them to succeed. But at the same time, they've made good moves. They've made some scary moves, right? Like some moves where I'm like, yeah, I don't want to play that guy, right? I don't want our defense to play that guy. But at the end of the day, if everything stops, the train stops in its tracks because of Deshaun Watson, one single player, doesn't matter what position, doesn't matter that he's the quarterback. If everything stops because of one person, you're failing your entire team.
Yes.
And it's tough. It's tough to see. But
it is. It's making everything. I don't even know what to do with them anymore, because I feel like they just keep every decision that they make regarding this, and it just feels wrong. Like I want so badly for them to just come out and kind of turn things and start motivating the rest of their team and their fan base and moving everything in the right direction. And they just don't seem like they know how to do that. And I'm sitting there like slapping myself on the head. Like, this isn't game over for you. Like, you can use this, and not that you're going to go off and be great, but you don't just have to completely shut down and give up. And this isn't an organization I love supporting. Like you said, the only reason I rooted for them was because of Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins. So now without all of that, like there's nothing drawing me to them anymore. But at the same time, you shouldn't just completely give up on your franchise because of all of this. Like, you can still hold on and move yourself in the right direction eventually. It's going to take time, but it's not completely game over. Do a complete rebuild and make everyone believe in you again.
You're not sitting in a super tough division. And I say that as a division rival, right? Like, you're sitting in a division where one team got a rookie quarterback. That all has to be rebuilt. You're looking at another team who has Carson Wentz now, who had a lot of good pieces last year, but who knows how that's going to work out. And then the Titans, who we just talked about, are missing a ton, right? And Ryan Tannehill is going to be more under pressure than we've seen him in Tennessee thus far. So you're sitting with a lot of uncertainty in your division. I'm not saying you're going to go and win the playoffs or you're going to win the Super Bowl. You're definitely probably not. You're probably not getting into the playoffs, but at least give your team something to play for. And that's possible, right? Like, you can win some of these division games. You can take home some of these out of division games, but you're not sending the message that you're ready to do that. And it's sad. It's a little sad. I agree with you. I think they've lost every piece and every person that was drawing anyone to their franchise. I think they've mismanaged a lot of things. So I think it's tough for fans to tune in and really support this team. But peace and love to Houston. Peace and love, because rooting for you guys.
Things are tough.
Things are tough.
All right. Now there's still one major name on the trading block that has me very, very conflicted. My beloved Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
This is something that has been so drawn out. Like, there's been so many times where I'm like, the end of this week, Zach Ertz is going to be traded. And that was months ago at this point. I thought he was definitely gone before the draft. Then we made it through the draft, and I was like, all right, maybe there's a chance he stays. Then all of the talk came up again. I don't really know what to think, but the latest that I saw this week, which, if he is going to go anywhere, this is, I think, where I would happily send him, and I want him to go. Buffalo Bills. And Dawson Knox came out and said, I would welcome Zach Ertz here with open arms. They have $11.4 million available right now to pay him, which I think they could easily do. I don't know. It's so weird. It's so weird. We have Dallas Goedert, who's absolutely fantastic. Like, and I love him. I think he's great. But for some reason, I think it's more of like a sentimental thing. I'm not ready to let go of Ertz. But at the same time, we haven't seen the production out of him the last couple of years. And maybe it's an age thing. Maybe it's an offensive thing. Maybe it's a coaching. Like, there are so many things that could go into his lack of production last season. There was injuries, which we're not used to seeing from him. So I don't really know. Part of me just wants him to stay just for the sake of, I feel like the Eagles have lost so much already. So losing another big name like that, it's going to sting. But at the same time, it doesn't seem like he wants to be there. Him and Carson Wentz, he lost his best friend. He was very frustrated with coaching. Like, there was a lot that went into it. So I feel like maybe it would be toxic for him to stay. But at the same time, I am kind of hoping for it. But I really think his bags are packed. I really think he's out the door. And the fact that it's taken this long is honestly really shocking. But I think my cards right now are Zach Ertz is going to be a Buffalo Bill.
Why do you think it's because you look at Zach Ertz, and I agree with you. I think the production has gone down. He's 30 years old. There's a lot of factors going into this, injuries here and there. But overall, a guy that should be a highly sought after player at his position, right? So, and a lot of teams, I think, would perform better with him on your team. Like, I just think that goes without saying. Obviously, a lot in salary cap, but why do you think it's taken this long for him to be traded? Like, what is if you could attribute it to anything, what would you say?
I blame Howie because I just love to do that for every inconvenience. I think when the talks were so high, Howie wanted so much for him. I saw talks that Howie wanted a first for him, which there's no way in hell. And I love Zach Ertz. There's no way in hell we are getting a first-round pick for. They didn't even get a first-round pick for Julio Jones. Like,
right.
Ertz is not. We're not getting a first for him. I think the price tag was way too high, and Howie had way too many expectations. Zach Ertz wanted to be traded, and this was he didn't want to be there. So I think when all the talks and teams were inquiring, Howie was probably turning down so many offers, and then the draft happened. And now teams are feeling comfortable and they have rookies to pay. And I don't think there's that many offers anymore. I think the list of teams that he could go to has dwindled a lot. And now I feel like whatever offer we would get for him is less than they should have taken the first time. And so now it's just like a tricky situation where I really think he wants out. Well, I shouldn't say that. He wants to be an Eagle, but I think he's very frustrated with the way the organization has been moving, and I don't blame him. I know I have the same frustrations that he has. So I think he's like super torn, but at the end of the day, I think he understands this isn't the same organization that we were when we won our Super Bowl. It's a completely different environment. For that, I think that makes him want to leave. He lost his best friend. So I really think Howie got greedy when teams were calling and asking about him and what he was willing to accept. And now I think he's kind of stuck because Zach wants out, and yet he's not going to get what he wants for him. It's too low, but then he's not willing to take anything low to get rid of him. So I just think it's a tough situation for them to be in.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough because he's also coming off a season where he put up all of his stats were career lows, right?
Yeah.
And that makes sense in terms of when you look at overall what the Eagles did last year, every struggle that they faced, it didn't set him up for any kind of success, which again, we're not sitting here putting the blame solely on the Eagles or Zach Ertz, but there is just a combination of things that led to him having a really poor season in production.
Yeah.
And it's a tough.
If you think about last season, if you minus last season, he's a top 3 tight end.
Right.
So last year is the outlier, but then I understand teams being nervous to go out and get him because they're like, what if it is age? What if he can't produce? And that's a very valid question for them to ask when they're going to be giving up a decent amount to get him.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the Bills were in the conversation really early on, right, for Zach Ertz. So I think they went out, they got Jacob Hollister, they got Dawson Knox. They picked up all these pieces that they thought were really going to fill the gap. But when you look at their overall production, I mean, combined, they really barely reach what Zach Ertz has been able to do. So he's worth a lot more than he is, I guess, valued at right now, but it's so much timing. But I would love for him to be a Buffalo Bill. But again, they would have to really sort out something as far as salary cap and draft capital because they're not going to get a first round. That's not going to happen. Not only are they not going to get a first round, you're not going to get anything probably in addition to a second round, I would say, if I'm just guessing.
No,
and then on top of that, you're really going to have to make something work because $11 million is nothing to balk at in this point in free agency, right? Like, we're so late, and a lot of teams have made so many moves. They've spent their money. They've really tried to work out their budget and their salary cap. And now you have someone who maybe he's worth every cent of your $11 million, but what are you giving up to get to that 11 million.
No, 100%. I think that's fair. And that's another reason why I was really upset with the Eagles, because when he was saying he wants out, and you watched how Houston let JJ Watt get an early jump start, and you saw he kind of got his pick of teams. Not that I would ever willingly just be like, yep, Zach Ertz, I want you to go. Like, it's a very tough decision, but I also don't want to hold him in a place where he doesn't feel comfortable, because we saw how much he loved Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He was crying in his when our season ended, because he believed it was the end for him, and he loves this city. So it's definitely tough. But for when he's coming out and saying, I want to look into other offers, and they're not allowing him to do that. And then now it's kind of like they're stuck and he's stuck. And like you said, we're at the very end. They've made all the big moves that they wanted to make. We're running out of money. We're running out of time. Like, someone is going to have to give. And I just don't want Zach Ertz, just because of how much he's done for us and how much I just respect him so much as a person and a player and what he's done for this organization. I don't ever want him to feel like he got screwed. And I think that's where we're at right now. And I don't want him to just come back to Philly because that was the only option. I want him to love this city like he has for his career, because he has done incredible things for us. But it's so weird, because I don't want to be like, yeah, trade Zach Ertz, because that's not in my heart what I want to happen. But at the end of the day, I want what's best for him. And I do think a trade is best for him. And I do think it's beneficial for us too, because it's not like we're lacking in the tight end position. We have a great tight end, a young tight end that could come up and be one of the best in this league. And I'm not even over exaggerating that. I think he's that talented. So when we have that there, and then we also were struggling with cap space as well. We gave up we lost Carson Wentz. We're stuck in money. Extra picks or free up salary cap space, like, it would be great for us. So I do think it's beneficial to trade him, but I just don't know if it's going to happen, because I really think Howie's going to be greedy. So it's something we definitely have to keep our eye on. I really thought it was completely done for the last couple weeks. And then now talks are kind of circulating again, and the Buffalo Bills seem to be at the forefront. So if he is going to go anywhere, I think it's Buffalo.
Okay. So if he doesn't go to Buffalo, because, so we have a comment. Indy has 17 mil and his best friend.
I would be a Colts fan. They would have my team.
Would you? Okay. See, as someone whose team is in the AFC South, I don't want this to happen, obviously, but this honestly makes a little more sense just because it's easier for them, right? And I do think Indianapolis, when you look at the Bills, it would be insane. And I think the Bills and the Colts, the Bills are way closer to being a Super Bowl contender than the Colts are. We know this, but the Colts put up really interesting games last year. They did some interesting stuff. They were fun to watch. I think a lot of people were rooting for them. Obviously, there was some back and forth on the playoff situation. They were definitely much better than their standing would indicate, just because the AFC was so stacked last year, and it's going to be again this year. But that would be a lot of fun. I mean, not fun for me 2 weeks out of the season, but fun for somebody. And I think that somebody would be Zach Ertz. I just think they have a lot going on for them right now. They're in a good space. They're pretty low key, to be honest with you. I mean, after the Carson Wentz trade, I think they remained under the radar. They've been making moves quietly. And I'm not sold on Carson Wentz being able to come to Indianapolis and really play a great season. And I know that's going to break your heart. I'm not convinced. I need to see more.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that would be a lot of fun. I don't know if he was going to go anywhere but Buffalo, where do you think he's landing?
You've made a very good argument. If Zach Ertz, I'm going to say this, and this is a hot take, and I know you're not. If Zach Ertz goes to the Colts, I think this team, and this is so biased because it's literally like the Philadelphia Colts at this point. I think they're Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah.
I really think that brings them to that level, just because I know the Carson Wentz, Zach Ertz relationship. Throw Frank Reich, who I believe fully won us our Super Bowl. Not like Doug obviously played a big part, but Frank Reich, the second he left, that's when our offense crumbled. So you get the three of them back together with a stacked O-line, a good defense. Like, this team is terrifying.
It is. It's scary. I don't want this to happen, obviously. I don't want to play that team twice. If Carson Wentz turns out to be what they think.
I think Carson Wentz is going to be in MVP conversations. I don't think he's going to win.
That's a big take.
But I think Carson Wentz is he has everything that he was lacking in Philadelphia. He has everything. So he has no excuses. And I know the talent is there. There is no doubt in my mind that he will be an MVP. And I'm not saying he's going to win. I don't think he's going to come out and have an MVP season. But I do think he is going to be talked about in those conversations.
Hot take.
Yeah.
Clip it. Clip it. Make it happen. Look, I'm here for it. I want to see what happens. We got a lot of exciting. I feel like this season has just been, well, not even this season, this off season has been up and down. It's like 1 week we'll be sitting there with nothing to talk about, and then the next week we've got 10 million things and too much to discuss. Yeah. Oh,
it's definitely leading up for a very exciting regular season, just because there has been so much movement and so much drama from big names. Like, this isn't just trading some receivers here and there. Like, these are major veteran guys that have been on one team for so long that are now talking. Like, even the Russell Wilson obviously didn't end up getting traded, but now that's in the back of our minds. So now I think halfway through the season, if we see an unproductive Seattle Seahawks, now we're all going to be talking about, is Russell Wilson going to leave? Like, now there's just been so many storylines that even though they didn't play out yet, they're there. Yeah. So now we have, it's just insane. And I'm ready.
I'm ready for it. I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, this is the same offseason where JJ Watt teased us for months and then was like, the Cardinals, and I was like, oh, wasn't expecting that. This is the same offseason. Like, I was talking to someone the other day as if it has already been a full season that JJ Watt has been in Arizona, and then I realized, nope, same year. We're still here.
Yes. No, this has been going on for so long. And I literally feel like I'm going to sit there week 1 and I'm going to forget how new all of this actually is. Yeah. It's going to take me 3 weeks to adjust to who's actually on what team and what's going on. Carson Wentz is on the Colts, and that felt like it happened 10 years ago.
Insane. Well, let's answer before we get out of here one question from the comments, because it's a pretty good one and a lot to think about. Comeback player of the year, Darnold or Wentz? And we'll take bias out of this.
I'm going to take bias out of it. And this literally is me removing, you're not going to believe me, but it really is. I'm going to say Wentz just because of how stacked the Colts are all the way around. I just think it puts him in a better position. Carolina is great, and I think Sam Darnold is going to be great, and I want him to be great. I just don't think they're at that same level, because we saw how good the Colts were with Phillip Rivers. Yeah. So now we have Wentz, who, as long as he can stay healthy and come out and look like the Wentz we all know and love, that team is unbeatable. And imagine if they actually get Zach Ertz there, that would just literally be insane. So I am going with Wentz for the sole fact of where Indianapolis is as a whole.
I am also going with Wentz. I think where Indianapolis is, like you mentioned, they just have more pieces put in place to make that run. I think we saw, like I said, they're standing in the league, in their division. Everything that came down to their standing in the NFL and for the playoffs did not tell the story of how good of a team they were last year. They were definitely underrated for the entire season. So I do think that they're a little further ahead of the Panthers. I also think when you look at their divisions, the Panthers are sitting in a division where you've got Tampa Bay, you've got New Orleans, which we have no idea what they're going to come out and look like, but they definitely have talent there. And the Falcons, and we talked about the Falcons, and obviously Julio Jones isn't there, but that doesn't diminish the fact that they have a ton of other talent. They got Kyle Pitts, and who knows, Matt Ryan may have a huge season. That's a big if on that division, right? Besides the Bucks, you have no idea what those teams are going to come out and look like, but they've got players there. They've got dogs. So like, you have no clue. And I think Carolina is a hit or miss. Now the Colts are sitting with Houston, which, as we discussed, is in shambles. They're sitting with Jacksonville, who has a long way to go. And I just think when you look at the teams that they're sitting there and playing, I mean, the Titans, okay, like the Titans are really going to be their only competition there. But again, I think they're just more of a well-rounded team. So they've got a clear path to leading their division where the Panthers just don't have that.
Yeah,
so
100%.
But I want Sam Darnold, peace and love to Sam Darnold, because want him to succeed in every aspect of his life.
Yeah, and exactly that. I think that's the best way to put it. I want Sam Darnold to come out and prove how good he actually can be. And I just don't think his team as a whole is going to come out, and there's no chance they're taking that division. And the Colts clearly have a chance to make a run at that. So I think that's where we'll leave it. See, that was pretty unbiased. I think I did it.
That was pretty unbiased, yeah. I mean, I agree with you completely. So
okay, that makes me feel a lot. I was scared you were going to be unbiased. Sam Darnold all the way, and I was going to be like, crap, maybe it is all biased. It's all hard.
No, like I said, look, we're rooting for everybody out here, not the Titans, but we're rooting for everyone else out here. So it is like, I've got a soft spot for everybody, but I think that's a pretty easy.
Except the Titans and Cowboys.
Yeah. Titans and Cowboys we're not here for, but everyone else, we're here for. I'm here for Dak Prescott, so I don't know. We're kind of there.
No, I
as one person. As one person, as an individual person, separated from the Cowboys.
I really love him. That's why I was happy when they paid him, because he deserves it. But part of me was like, I wish they messed this up, because if he went anywhere else, I could actually root for him, which I would love to do, but I just can't. Like, I literally can't do it, and it pains me.
Yeah. So other than that, we're out here rooting for everybody because we're evolved, grown human beings.
Mature young women.
We are. So that's the theme of this podcast, is really us maturing and rooting for people. But on that note, we'll leave it at that. Make sure to follow us on our pages, Twitter, Onside Chicks Pod, Instagram Onside Chicks. Subscribe to YouTube, Twitch, and make sure to rate, review, subscribe on Apple and Spotify. Thanks for our 5-star review on Apple. We love that for us. But we would like more of them, because there can never be enough.
Never be enough. Yeah, load it up.
And we will catch you guys next Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye, friends.